Well, let's see what happens when you actually turn your mic on. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Trailblazer Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Frederick Beatty, and welcome to the check-in combined with Man Cave Conversations. Check-in is a show where we talk about all things mental health, but from a male's viewpoint. And Man Cave Conversations talks about all things from a male's viewpoint. The purpose of the check-in is to talk about situations and things that affect us as men, especially when it comes to mental health and mental well-being and emotional health. The purpose of Man Cave Conversations is to just empower us as men, to be bold and to just to be who we are, to be men unapologetically. And once again, I'm your host, Frederick Beatty, and I thank you guys so very much for tuning in with us tonight. I don't plan on being before you guys very long, but I do want to start out with this. There was a song that I was going to play prior to the one that you guys heard. The name of the song was going to be called "Suffer for Me." By this young lady that I know by the name of Hershey, the lyricist. Someone that I've known for quite some time. due to Meta being Meta, I to play. I didn't want to put. Didn't want to. And it's not. It's not. It is not a knock on her as an individual. I promise you, it's not a knock on her as an artist and as an individual. But due to Meta being Meta, then I didn't want my pay. Didn't want any of the pages to get flagged or thrown in Facebook jail for throwing in Facebook jail. But with all that being said, I most definitely wanted to want to tell you guys a little bit about this young lady, man. First of all, first and foremost, she's a Houston, Texas um lyricist who started off her thing in 1997, um, doing all kinds of things. Since 2017 forward, she's an independent artist, releasing some great hits such as "So Amazing," "Let Me Tell You," and "My Girls Get It." She's also did some collaborations with Cliche, Devious, and Face Meek and Face Meek. So she's got Southside Love and Suffer from Me are her latest releases. Um she the way that I view her, the way that I look at her, she is someone who she talks about things that a lot of female lyricists don't talk about. If you've ever heard her song "Suffer for Me," you'll see with how deep that goes. Um, if you guys want to follow her, you most definitely can follow her on TikTok and IG. And I'm most definitely gonna put her TikTok and her IG up here for you guys. So if you are interested in following her, you can. Um, so you can follow her at this right here below. And I'm gonna put up here for everybody to see. So you can follow her. So if you guys can follow her here. Follow her on Hershey the Lyricist on IG and at Hershey the Lyricist on TikTok and on TikTok. So follow her on IG, follow her on TikTok. She's First of all, she's an amazing person, and she's also a very and in my eyes, she's a very prolific lyricist as far as female MCs go. I don't even call her a FMC. I call her an MC because her skills transcend that, and she talks about stuff that nobody else talks about. So I want to extend a sincere apology to her because I really wanted to play her song, but Meta being Meta, didn't want to do that again and have my pages have my pages have the pages banned. Trust me, sis. I got other ways of getting you on. Trust and believe. Got other ways I can do that. So don't worry. So with and with that being said, man, continue to follow us on all our social media pages, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We have a TikTok page. Also, we have a YouTube channel. So make sure you follow us on there. Make sure you follow us on our YouTube channel at Trailblazers Radio, Trailblazer with a Z Radio, and take a look at our content. If you like what we're doing as far as our content is concerned, um, like a video, maybe share the video with somebody. And if you're really digging our content, won't you do me a favor, please? Won't you hit that subscribe button for me, and then also hit that bell notification so that you'll be notified whenever whenever we come up, so that way you guys will be able to check out our content and things of that nature. We got some great things coming down the pike for everybody, man. I forgot to tell you, we also have a webpage it is www.trailblazersradio.com. So that is our webpage, y'all. So go check out our webpage too. Let you know who we are, what we do, lets you let you meet the team. And we also have a repository of past episodes, as well as past episodes, past shows and things of that nature. So check us out on www.trailblazerradio.com. We're everywhere that you guys can. We're everywhere that you guys can connect to us. Um, we're also on a lot on all audio streaming platforms. Um, not Facebook, Jesus, not Facebook. Apple Podcast, Spotify, excuse me, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. So we're everywhere, we're anywhere, and we're everywhere where you guys can catch us, can look, can take us, can listen to us, can watch us. We also have a Twitch page. Uh, so we're everywhere where you guys can watch us and view, can listen to us and view us. Most definitely want to thank all our viewers and all our listeners for being here with us and just tuning in to us and vibing out with us. Without you guys, this really wouldn't be a thing. So not going to be before you guys very long. I do want to talk about something that I think is very important for us as men to kind of understand, but also get an understanding of. Um, the thing I want to talk about tonight is working through our pain, and also asking the question, how are we healing? So one of the things that I realize, that I have learned to understand or understand as a man, is what is my response to pain. As a man, I have to be very cognizant of how I work through that pain, how I progress through that pain, how I work through these painful events and situations that continue to, permeate our lives. Because believe it or not, how we work through our pain kind of tells a little bit about who we are who we are as a man. That is, it's subtle indications of letting folks know who we are as men. And I think that how we work through pain looks different on every man, and how we progress through working through that pain, and how we are healing is different for every man. One of the things that has not changed is the large influence of social media, the large influence of mainstream media, and also the socio-political uh, factors that are currently in place when it comes to how we manage or how we deal our pain. But I'm not up here tonight to talk about social media factors and social political factors. I'm not up here tonight to talk about that. What I am here to talk about is about how we as black men attempt to work through our pain and to better understand how we are healing. Now, I can't speak to every man's pain. I can't speak to every man's um, experiences. I can't speak to every man's experience. I can only use my experience as as a barometer for us to learn from, for us to for us as men to learn from, for us as men to gather insight from, for us as men to understand. This is I just want to let you guys, the want to let you brothers know that this is a safe space for you to be. This is a safe space for you to come and be transparent. So please do so. Please don't be afraid to come in the chat and put a comment or a concern or a question that you might have. This man cave conversations and the check-in are safe spaces for men to be men, to be vulnerable, to be transparent, and to be men without judgment. So like I stated before, I can't speak to every man's how every man works through their pain. I can only speak to my I can only speak to my personal experience. So where can I begin? What's the best place for me to begin? I could begin begin through my childhood, but my childhood was a relatively peaceful, happy one. Save the occasional incident for instance as a child. So where can I begin? What's my beginning point? Well, if I had to say what my beginning point is and where it starts, I would say we could start around 1997. 1990 the years of 1997 and 1998. Um, we can start there. Uh, Starting in 1997, I just, got just came back from doing a 90-day stint in the Santa Barbara County Jail for a violation of probation that stemmed from a domestic violence instance that I was a part of. Stems from that. And so if we're gonna be, I guess if we can begin there and work our way through the years. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna condense this particular part of it for everybody because there's some points that I want to make as as we're going through this. So 1997, 1998, just came back from a bid doing a 90 bid in Santa Barbara County Jail, trying to get my life back together, trying to get my life back in order, try to excuse me, try to deal with some of the things that had been some of the blows that I've been dealt. Also try to recover from what I had endured. 90 days is a long time to be by yourself and to try to put things in their proper perspective. 90 days is a long time to try to figure out where you may possibly belong in this crazy ass world. 90 days is a long time to work through some of the things that you've been that you 90 days is a long time for me to go to work through some of the things that I've been going through as an individual. But for some strange reason, I didn't give myself a chance to work through that, to work through what I had gone through, because the part of me that wanted to have companionship, walked right into the arms of an abusive person. And being up in Washington State and enduring that, and then leaving Washington State and then coming back to California, San Diego, California, again to try to put my life back together again, and then trying to work through that again. Never giving myself any type of reprieve or any type of uh, breather or anything of that nature. Just again, just walking, just you know, kind of pillar the post in it, pillar the post. You know what I'm saying? Pillar the post. Um, walking right into the arms of another person, and then going through those experiences, and then going through those experiences, and then coming in, making my way back here to Georgia, where I currently live. But this is my sense. This would be like my fourth step back here in my home state of Georgia. So I guess if we could talk, we could take it back to 1990 to like 1993, and there was a lot of things that were uncovered that I went through it, and that and through and then through up through there too. But like I said, but for me, the beginning point would be 1997, 1998, and then like again, leaving California to come back here in 2006, and then to kind of go through all those painful situations and moments that I went through uh, during my first stint here in Georgia, my first stint in Georgia, um, up to 2011. You know, there was a I actually, you know, there was a I made an attempt to unalive myself. Um, went through an emotional went through a complete emotional went through a complete emotional breakdown. Trying to get myself back on the right trying to get myself back on the right path to healing, but it is but not but didn't do that. Um, got married, and again, you know, got and I'm gonna say this. You know, that so I'm not so this is I'm not putting all the onus on my ex-wife, because there were instances to where I was responsible too, responsible for the things that I did too. There were times where I was not accountable for the things that I did, the things that I did and the things that I did not do. So not gonna place the whole onus on not gonna place the onus just on her. The onus was also on me as well. So with that, with that being said, you know, combine that with not being able with combine that with being with failure as a father. You know, had 4 children. Um, wasn't actively in their lives. So it wasn't actively in their lives, wasn't actively in their lives, so to speak. Well, not so to speak, wasn't actively in their lives. Um, had the opportunity to at least experience my oldest son before he passed. Um, never really seeing my middle son Shamar, and then totally being out the loop with my daughter Francesca, and then struggling to maintain a relationship with um, my youngest son by Trey. Add on to that the constant string of experiences that had their share of success and failure. Add to that add to that unresolved issues. Add to that having the opportunity to having the opportunity to repair a bridge, but never taking the opportunity to do so, or taking the opportunity to wait, taking the opportunity too late. All these things added up to unworked pain, unworked. All these experiences added up to unworked pain. Most of it is of my own volition and my own doing. So I'm not going to say that it's anybody else's fault except my own because choices have consequences. So one of the things I had to understand is that I had to be I had to understand that the choices that I made had consequences. And then to lose a child, to lose a child, um, to lose a maternal grandmother, and then to lose a paternal grandmother later, and then add to that a divorce, then add to that an identity crisis, then add to that another attempt, and then another attempt in 2018, and then another attempt in 2020, and then another attempt in 2021. Unresolved, unresolved issues, and then failure to work through those issues or work through those issues. And then on top of that, ministry burn. I experienced ministry burnout. I can safely say that 90 90% of the all the 90% of all the pain that I went through was because of the choices that I made. The other 10% are varying external factors. I never developed a plan to work through any of the pain that I endured during those times. And with every negative experience, it piled up and it piled up and it piled up and it piled up and it piled up until it became something that was largely unbearable. Became something that was largely unbearable. That was that wasn't feasible. That wasn't possible. It was more unreasonable and unfeasible than anything. It was more unfeasible and more unreasonable than anything because I tried to develop a plan to work through, tried to develop a plan to work through all that, but the plan kind of went to hell in a handbasket very quickly because I didn't understand what it truly meant to work through your pain or to work through pain. I never truly understand still what it meant be still be present in the moment, even though I'm going through a lot of personal pain. I never understood that. I never grasped that concept. I never understood that concept. I always thought that I always thought that always thought that all this stuff would pass. I always thought that all this stuff would pass through the passage of time. And it is true that time will heal all wounds, but time does heal all wounds. But however, there has to be an investment in the healing process. First of all, you have to be invested in the healing process, um, for that adage to even work, for that particular adage to even work. So you can't say time heals all wounds, and you don't take the time, or you don't embrace the process of healing, because at that particular point, that adage doesn't work. It's just you're just saying something that doesn't have an effect. Because what happens when all that time passes, you're still in that pain, you're still in that hurt. You haven't worked through that. You haven't worked through that pain so that way you can maneuver past it. And that was me. That was me for a long time. Did embrace did I didn't I didn't work through my pain. I didn't take the time to analyze and deep dive into myself and to really get to the crux of the pain, the crux of what was hurting and why I was hurting. I never got to the never got to the pro to the heart of the matter, to the root of the matter, the origin of why all this is happening, why all this was going on, why all this was transpiring. And it hurt me. It hurt me big time because it got to the point to where I never re- I never got to experience the healing process. Not I never got to experience the healing process while I was going through all that because I thought by ignoring it and not paying attention or not giving it any energy or putting it in the corner, putting it in the corner and putting it in the corner, putting it in the corner. It was my thought process that it would go away, that it would disappear, that it would disappear, that it would be not existent. Boy, was I wrong. So it doesn't matter if you set your pain to the side, or if you put it in a corner, or if you bury it beneath layers and layers and layers of if you bury it beneath layers and layers of more hurt and more pain, or if you try to cover it up with armor, that pain's still gonna be there. It's still gonna be there. It's still gonna be there. And we can't just you can't bury you can't bury that under layers and layers of hurt, under layers and layers of insecurity, under layers and layers of feeling out of place or feeling like you don't belong. You can't bury that and then combine it with those other things. You can't bury that and combine it with years of depression and years of anxiety. Um, you can't bury that and combine it with PTSD. You can't do that because that just that just that just exacerbates the pain or makes it worse. So I had to do something. I had to come to a realization that if I was going to get to my healing process, I had to work past my pain. I had to work through my pain. And this goes to one of the points that I want to make. That one of the points that I want to make tonight, or one of at least a couple of points that I want to make tonight. Number one, working through pain requires us to be accountable. Requires us to be accountable. We have to be accountable to ourselves. We have to be responsible to ourselves. We have to be accountable to ourselves. We have to be accountable to the pain that we knowingly inflict upon ourselves. We have to take that, and we have to own that. What happens when you don't own it? You lose you What happens when you don't own what happens when you don't own what happened? What happened to you? What happens when you don't hold yourself accountable to your choices? Tell you what happens. You become ignorant of the fact. You become ignorant of the fact that your pain wasn't caused by you. It was caused by other people. And remember what I said earlier about myself. I can safely say that 90% of the pain that 90% of the pain that I caused was caused by me. Was caused 90% of the pain that I caused myself was caused by myself. The other 10% were existential factors, external factors. You have to be accountable to yourself to call that thing what it is. I'm hurt. I'm in trouble. I need help. You got to be able to call that thing. You got to be able to call that thing what it is. Call that thing a thing. Call that thing what it is, and be bold about it. Be sure about it. Be absolutely positively sure about it. We got to be accountable to ourselves when it comes to working through our pain. If we're not accountable to ourselves, then we're not accountable to us. If we're not accountable to ourselves, then this whole process, the rest of the things that I'm about to say, and the process of healing is completely derailed, completely and totally derailed. If you're not accountable, then all the other steps that you're gonna undertake are pretty much moot points, because you're not gonna get to the heal. You're not going to get to the healing part of it. Be accountable. Be accountable to yourself. I'm pretty sure that's a lot of the things that we've done. A lot of things that we endure are like, the majority of that is our fault, is our own doing, based upon the choices that we make, based upon the actions or inactions that we take. And we have to hold ourselves accountable to that. If we don't hold ourselves accountable, we derail. We're lying to ourselves. We derail our process. Number two, working through our pain requires us to show ourselves grace. We often give other human beings grace. But when's the last time that you gave but when's the last time you gave yourself grace? I'll repeat that so that everybody can hear that again. But I'm also going to put for my first bullet point in the chat, so if you're watching this on the replay, you'll know what I'm talking about. Tenet number one: working through pain requires accountability. We have to be accountable to ourselves. We have to be able to show ourselves accountable to ourselves. Second bullet point: working through pain requires grace. It's often to give another. It's easier to give another human being grace especially when they're going through a a traumatic event, or they're experiencing something that they haven't that they literally haven't experienced before. And it is a new thing to them. It's a new thing to them. It's easy to it's easy to give another human being grace. But ask yourself this particular question. When's the last time you gave yourself grace? When was the last time you gave yourself grace? I'll wait. When's the last time you extended grace to yourself? When's the last time you just told yourself, hey, I know I'm going through a rough time. I know I'm going through a rough patch, and I know that I'm going through something that is that is heart wrenching, that is horrendous, that is horrible, that is something that is inevitably changed my life path. When the last time you gave yourself grace? When's the last time you said, when the last time have you told yourself that I'm human and I know these things happen and I know these experiences happen and I know what I'm feeling is the da- is a I know what I'm feeling, what I'm going through is a natural process, the natural process of how we the natural process of how we process our emotions and how we work through our emotions, or how we work ourselves through trying and demanding times. When's the last time you did that for yourself? When's the last time you extended that grace towards yourself? Like I said, we like I said before, we are apt to extend grace to other people, but we don't always extend grace to ourselves because I think sometimes we feel like we don't deserve. Sometimes I think we feel like we don't deserve grace. We personally don't deserve to give great. We personally don't deserve to give grace to ourselves because we feel as if it's it's not fair. It's not a fair thing to extend grace to yourself. But you have to give yourself grace. Working through pain does working through your pain working through pain requires that. It's a staunch requirement because you have to look at it from the aspect of you being a human being, just like the person, just like the next person that you extended grace to. If you extended grace to another person, then why in the hell would you not extend grace to yourself? We're all human. We all make errors. We all have these moments to where we all have these moments to where we're fallible. We all have these moments to where we are we are vulnerable. We all have these moments we we hurt. And we all have these moments to where we're trying our very best to work through that pain, work through that pain, and work through that hurt, and and hopefully come out on the other side and come out on the other side of this a much better individual or a much better person. So extend grace to yourself when you're working through your pain. Because you're just as human as the next man or the next woman or the next child. We're all human, and we're all we we all experience the broad spectrum of emotions: happiness, sadness, joy, contentment, disappointment, disillusionment, despondency, um, extreme loneliness. All the whole gamut of emotions. We as human beings, we experience them all, and we don't we don't always experience we don't always experience them all at one time. Some of us do experience those emotions at one all at least one or two of those emotions at one time. So we are human, and we do experience that. If you get if you're apt to give another person grace, give yourself extend yourself that same courtesy of grace, because you're gonna need that grace to work through your pain, because that grace is gonna keep you as you work through your pain. Those times where you're gonna beat yourself up as you're working through your pain, you're gonna say, "Okay, I'm human. Um, I am afforded a mistake." So when you go through those moments, and you go through those weak moments to where it's like, well, I that's my fault. I did. Of course, be accountable and own it, but also give yourself grace and say, I'm human, and we all make mistakes, which which comes in line with the third thing I wanted to talk about a little bit. Working through your pain means that you extrapolate the lesson that was supposed to be imparted on you by the that was supposed to be imparted upon you by the experience. I'll repeat it. I will repeat that again. Working through pain means that you extrapolate the lesson learned from the painful experience. What do I mean by that? What do I mean? What do you mean by that, Fred? What are you talking about? What are you getting at? What is it? What do you mean by extrapolate the lesson? Well, Every experience that we go through as human beings, there's a lesson behind it. Every experience that we go through, good, bad, or indifferent, there is a lesson behind it. There's a big hole, there's a big old lesson to be learned behind every experience that we go through, every experience that we encounter or that we endure. What's the lesson? We gotta find out what the lesson is. We gotta find out what that lesson is or was before we can even get to the point of applying the lesson to the experience. How do you extrapolate a lesson from an experience? You analyze it. You go back over it. You don't go back over it to feel the you don't go back over it to feel the hurt or the pain anymore. You don't do that. You go back over it to learn, to find out what the lesson was to be learned from it. So you don't go back over the pain. You don't go back over it just to relive it. You go back over it to analyze it and to find a lesson in it. Whatever that lesson may be, whether it's to think before you do something, or whether it's to consider options before you engage in something, or whether it's just to sit back and be still. Lessons are learned through every experience, whether that experience is a positive experience, or whether it's a negative experience. Lessons are learned through all experiences. Every experience that we have as human beings, there are lessons to be learned from them. And instead of looking at the hurtful part of it, instead of looking at the part to look at it, instead of looking at it as a whole, as if I'm hurt, that was a painful experience. Because that's what we do as human beings, and that's what we do as men. Most of the time for us as men, we most for most of- for most of the time as men, and and again, I'm only going to speak to my experience. I'm not going to speak to any other male's experience. But this is probably just as common amongst most of us as it is to some of us. For me, I mean, I I normally bury the experience because I feel there wasn't a lesson to be learned. I know I used to bury my experiences because I felt there wasn't a lesson to be learned from them. Some of us as men do this because the simple fact of the matter is that what's the use in trying to extrapolate a lesson from something that we've already experienced, whether it was good, bad, or whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. What was the use in it? What was the use in that? It's something that hurt us and scarred us. So what's the lesson in it? And I'll say this for myself as a man. I was more concerned about moving forward than I was in staying behind and trying to analyze and extrapolate a lesson and trying to find out what it was, what lesson I was trying to get poked with, or what lesson that experience was trying to teach me. Every experience is a teachable moment. If we as men allow it to be. Every positive experience is a teachable moment. Every negative experience is a teachable moment. Every indifferent experience is a teachable moment. If we embrace the teachable moment, we're able to better extrapolate the lesson that wa- that it- that experience was supposed to teach us, or that experience was supposed to impart on us. Learned lessons make us better people. Make us better people. Learned lessons make us better people. When we learn a lesson, we're less apt to make the same mistake again because, oh well, damn, damn, that's hot. I can't put my hand on there because if I put my hand on there, it's gonna burn. Or and also you'll be able to see that particular type of trouble a mile away. Well, oh shit, I don't want to. I experienced that before. I don't want to involve myself in that again. I don't want to involve myself in that. So yeah, working through pain means that you extrapolate the lesson from that painful experience. The other part to that, but the other part to that sentence is and you apply it to your life. Extrapolate the lesson, learn it, and then apply it to your life. Apply lessons are like muscle memory. The more you apply them, the more apt you are at just doing it without just applying that lesson without thinking about it. Whoa, shit! This is the same scenario. Oh, okay, boom. I learned that lesson from that scenario, so now I'm gonna boom apply that, and now I don't. Now it's almost like you're not thinking. It's muscle memory now. It's already ingrained in you to know that I've been through that experience before. I learned that lesson from it, and I applied that lesson to it. So now, boom, I don't have to worry about if I'm going to go through that experience again because I've already applied the lesson to that, and now I know now I know what to look for when I come across that experience again. We got to be able to learn from the experience from the things that we experience, whether it's a positive experience, whether it's a negative experience. We have to be able to learn, be able for number one to even find out what the lesson is, to even extrapolate the lesson that's supposed to be learned. That is the challenge, to find out what the lesson is that we were supposed to learn. That's the challenge in and of itself. Yes, they are, sis. Life lessons are necessary for growth. We have to grow. If you're not learning, you're not growing. So working through pain means that we that w- that you extrapolate the lesson learned from that painful experience, as well as apply that lesson. So that way you don't get caught off guard with that. You don't get caught slipping, or you won't get broadsided with that experience again. Because now with that experience, you see that a mile coming. You already know how to handle that. You already know how to deal with that. Number four, working through pain requires us to be vulnerable. We have to be vulnerable to our own selves. We have to acknowledge that, yes, girl, yes, indeed. And just to really address that point, since too many, too much, too far too often, far too often, we we spend our time watering other people. So when we get to the point of watering ourselves, we don't have anything to give. We don't have any water to give ourselves. So while we've been watering other people, we're dehydrating ourselves. We're deprived. We're dying of thirst because those people that we've watered, We expect for them to water us, and they don't. Yeah, a lot of times we become the community water hole, because it's also because of some of us, for a lot of us, it's because of our easygoing and gregarious nature, but also also having the heart for people. You see somebody that's in a worse that's in a worse off position than you. You want the automatic thing is to help. So you do what you can to water that person, and you do it, and we do these things without the slightest bit of gratitude. We do these things without expecting anything in return. Simple fact of the matter is that we do these things for the love of people, for the love of wanting to see your brother or your sister succeed, or 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 make it, so to speak. So working through pain requires us to be vulnerable to ourselves. How do you go know what's hurting you, what you're hurting from, if you're not vulnerable? How you gonna know? And it also requires us to be, I won't even say vulnerable. I'll say more than vulnerable. I'll say truthful with ourselves. That sounds more like what I want to say. So working through pain requires us to be truthful with ourselves. Why is that? Why do we have to be truthful to us? Why do we have to be truthful to ourselves? Yep. A lot of watering. It's look, and to your point, when we water people, especially when it comes to a spouse or a significant other, when we pour into those people, when we water those people, the expectation is for us to be poured into, to be poured back into, or to be watered as well. Because if if I'm a plant, and when all plants, the requirement, especially house plants, with house plants, the requirement is sunlight and water. If you're not properly taking care of that house plant, if you're not watering that house plant properly, if you're not exposing the sunlight properly, that plant's gonna 90% out of 100, that plant's gonna die. And I look at us as human beings, I look at us as plants. We require care. We require a specific with some of we all require a specific type of care. So if we're not receiving that specific type of care that we're asking for, that we're wanting, or that we're needing, or that we want to have, then we'll shrivel up and die. That's just speaking to the truth of the matter. Getting back to what I was saying, working through pain requires us to be truthful. If we're not truthful to ourselves, then we're not going to be truthful to other people. If we're not truthful to ourselves, we're not going to be truthful. We're definitely not going to be truthful to other people. Ask yourself, what is Ask yourself as you go through this work through the pain. What is your truth? Ask yourself what is your truth? We have to be truthful with ourselves because we have to be honest and truthful. We have to be honest with ourselves because that's the only vector that heal to me that I know of that healing will come. That healing comes from. That's the only vector that I know of that healing comes from. Now, healing also comes with when you pray to God, but being truthful with yourself is one of the vectors that I know that my healing came from is when I literally sat down and I examined myself and I looked at the pretty parts of me and I looked at the ugly parts of me. And I said to myself, well, hey, I said to myself to the pretty part, to the and I say pretty parts, handsome, cute, whatever, in terms of whatever, however you want to word it. I said pretty because that's the first thing that came to my mind. But you look at the when it when I'm speaking more of a man's terms when you look when from a man's point of view, when you look at yourself and you're being truthful with yourself, you look at the handsome parts of you, and then you look at the not so handsome parts of you. And then with a woman, when you look at the beautiful parts of you, and then you look at the not so beautiful parts of you. Being truthful with yourself, being truthful with yourself means that you accept yourself as you are in the present moment. But it also means accepting things as they are in that present moment. Of course, what you went through was horrendous, and it was hurtful. And the person who did it may have been extremely spiteful, or maybe the hurtful thing you went through was a product of a choice, good, bad, or indifferent. Well, bad, good, bad, or indifferent. Maybe what you experienced was a product of a choice. Being truthful with yourself means that you own that you look at yourself in your entirety. Nobody understands the book of you better than you. I'll repeat that again. So that way you can understand what I'm saying. Nobody understands the book of you better than you. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? Because that's an easy answer for that's an easy answer, honestly speaking. Because you're the author of your book. You've been the person that's been writing these chapters in your life. You've been the orchestrator of this whole story. You've been the one writing the chapter. You've been the one writing chapter and verse in your life. You've contributed to these action packed and emotionally charged chapters in your book. So nobody knows the book of you better than you. And who better to read it? Who better to read that book than the person who wrote it? You. You have to be truthful with yourself. You have to be able to open. You have to be able to open your book and read it. Can't no other person do that for you. Of course, they can open up your book and read it, but they may not readily understand it. You've been the author writing it, so you understand it more. You got a better understanding of what it looks like. You got a better understanding of what it feels like. You got a better understanding of what it sounds like. You know what that is, and you're able to deal with that. You're able to look at that in real damn time. So, like I said, nobody understands the book of you better than you. Now, let's just keep this all the way what it is. God is the author and the finisher of our lives, right? So when we look at that from that aspect, you know, God has also been writing in our book. God has also been contributing chapters in our book. God has also been, you know, could be God is also God is the main author, so we're the contributing author. I'll put it that way for every so that way everybody understands. God's the main author, but we're the contributing author. So when we look at it from that aspect, so I think that's 3 or 4. So I'll drop number 5 here. I'll drop number 5 in here for everybody. And I apologize. I'm having some camera problems, so I apologize for that. I'll drop number 5 in here for you guys. And I think this is I think number 5 is there are many other points to this to working through pain, but I think these 5 points are are very pertinent. Number 5, working through pain requires us to embrace the hurt. I know that sounds real. I know that sounds really, really weird when it's said or what is talked about. I know it sounds really, really crazy when it's presented. But I need y'all. I want y'all to hear me out. I really want y'all to hear me out. How are you going to ever get past I won't say past. How are you ever going to work through your pain if you don't embrace it and allow it to hurt? I'm gonna ask you that again. How are you ever going to get how as a person, how are you ever going to get past your pain? How are you ever going to work through your pain if you don't allow it to hurt you? I'm gonna say hurt you. How are you going to get past your pain if you don't allow it to hurt? And I don't mean it in a way to where I don't mean it in a way to where it's going to utterly. I don't mean it in a way to where it's going to utterly decimate you. And I don't mean it in a way to where it's going to utterly decimate or destroy you or put you in a space to where you're not going to be able to recover. What I mean by embracing the pain, I mean it embracing and acceptance to me are the same thing. I know they're not synonymous, but to me, they are synonymous. And that's what I mean. That's what I mean by that. But how are you gonna how are you ever going to be able to work through that pain and get to your healing process if you don't allow it to hurt? There's an old adage, and I love it. And actually, no, I think that it's an old adage, and it came from a movie. I think that came from a movie, The Never Ending Story. It has to hurt if it's to heal. Yeah, I said it. I actually said that. It has to hurt if it's to heal. Why does it hurt? Well, maybe because it's healing. Why does it hurt so much? Well, you're in the you're in you're in the healing, you're in the healing stage of that wound, or you're in the healing stage of that broken bone. When you or that broken bone, usually when you break something and you're in a lot of pain. But then when they set the bone, they set the bone and set it in a cast, they set it in a cast, you're still in a lot of pain, but over time that pain gets duller and duller and duller and duller and duller to the point to where it's not even to it's not existent. Same thing with a cut or a serious wound. Over time, with with proper care, with proper care and treatment, that that cut or that's cut or that scrape or that serious wound, of course it hurts like hell it hurts like hell when you first get it. It'll hurt for it'll hurt for a few days. But after a while, it gets to the point to where that pain is duller and duller and duller to the point that where you don't even it doesn't bother you anymore. It doesn't hurt anymore because now you also see the healing process, and you see the healing process in real time. We have to embrace the pain that we've inflicted on ourselves, and that we've allowed other people to inflict upon us. And again, I'm not saying this I'm not saying this to utterly destroy or utterly decimate yourself. I'm not saying to 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 let all that pain in a whole bunch of increments, whole bunch of increments. I'm not telling you to I'm not telling you to open the floodgates. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you should open up the floodgates. That's not what I'm saying. And my camera's still not working, so I apologize for that, y'all. But I hope you guys can hear me. So I'm not asking nobody to open up the floodgates. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm really not asking you to open up the floodgates. But what I am asking you to do is let a little bit of that hurt in, so that way you can feel it and know what it feels like. So that way you can you can work through it. You can work through it you can work through it. You can work through it in small increments until work through the pain in small increments until that pain is no longer existed. Now you're moving or now you're matriculating to the healing to your healing phase to the healing phase. It's gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt if it's the heel, It's gotta hurt if it's gotta hurt if it's the heel, gentlemen. How do we know that we're healing? How do we know that we're healing physically? When it doesn't hurt anymore. When it doesn't hurt anymore, and then that scab forms over that wound, and then next thing you know, over time there's a scar. Scars are evidence of healing. They're not badges. They're not badges of honor, so to speak. And they're not badges of honor, so to speak. But Scars are evidence of scars are evidence that a healing took place. We're now I'm talking in the physical, but I'm also talking in the emotional and the mental. Because when we go through all this emotional and mental pain, there are emotional and mental scars that are present. And those scars are not a bad thing. Even though our emotional or mental scars are are demonized or looked at in some negative fashion or way, they're not negative at all. They're not negative at all. They're evidence of healing, or they're evidence of healing. And all of us have wounds in particular stages of either a freshly inflicted wound or a wound that's in the beginning stages of a process. And again, we're working through pain does require us to embrace it. And again, I'm not telling you to open the floodgates, because when you open the floodgates, you did now you're inviting in something you're inviting something that you're ill equipped to deal with. If you could only embrace that and deal with and work through that an increment at a time until you deal with it all, until every part of it is dealt with as a whole, then do that. But if you feel that you're strong enough to open up the floodgates and then deal with everything all at one time, then that's fine too. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You do it as you see fit, but you also do it to where you deal with it. You embrace that pain, and you work with it to your ability. There's no requirements to opening the floodgates, and there's no requirement to working the. There's no there's no penalty if you open up the floodgates and deal with it all at once, and there's no penalty if you deal with it a little bit at a time. The point is, as long as you as the overarching point is, as long as you deal with it, as long as you embrace it and you work through it. So there's no penalty. There's no penalty there. No one's gonna penalize you if you work. No one should penalize you or make you feel less than if you're working if you work if you're working through that if you're working through your pain in the way that you know how to work through it, the way that you've developed how to work through it. Which leads to um, my two final points tonight. Number six, working through pain requires you to develop a plan on how to work through your pain. I'll repeat it again. Working through your pain requires us to develop a plan as to how you're going to work through your pain. What do I mean by that? Most of the things in life that we do require some modicum of planning, whether it's very little planning or whether it's a whole lot of planning, whether we're planning to do something small or whether we're planning to do something enormous, whether we want to do something large or whether we do something small. There's some modicum of planning in it, whether it's a small amount of planning or whether it's a large amount of planning. This really is no different. This really is no different. You wanna know why it's no different? Because it's no different. Because no different from you planning, no different from somebody planning out a wedding or planning out a birthday event. You go through the stages of planning. Working through our pain requires the same level of attention and detail. You gotta have a surefire plan. You gotta have a surefire plan of how to walk through this in place. And even if that plan is surefire and it's boo it's tamper proof. You gotta be able to have some wiggle room when plan A goes to shit. You gotta be able to have a plan B in place when plan A becomes a loser. And you may also have to have a plan C for contingency plan when doesn't plan B flames out. Plan you can't you I put it like this. You can have a plan A, and that plan A is solid. But you also have to have a solid plan B and also equally a solid plan C. Because plan because the best laid plans, we can all agree to this or we all cannot agree to this. The best laid plans are usually waylaid by external factors that we do not foresee. Gonna say that again. Our best laid plans are often waylaid by external factors that we didn't see or we didn't see, didn't count on, or didn't plan on. And of course, I mean, the plan doesn't have to be foolproof. The plan doesn't have to be foolproof. It just has to be flexible. It has to be flexible enough to adapt. It has to be flexible enough to adapt to a changing environment. It has to be flexible enough to be able to be malleable if some unknown external factor acts upon your plan. It kind of throws everything into disarray. How do you respond? How do you respond with in disarray? How do you respond when you see you see your best laid plans unravel? You make adjustments. we make adjustments in real time. And if we continue to make adjustments and everything is still unraveling, it's okay to go back to the drawing board. Just because your plan didn't work out the first time doesn't mean anything. It's just means that you're going back to the drawing board. You go back to the drawing board. You take the lessons that you learned from your plan falling apart, and you apply those lessons to the next plan. And then when those situations come up and arise again, your plan is solid enough that it's able to overcome those things. And then you keep doing that, and you keep doing it as you plan. You gotta have a some sort of some sort of game plan in place. Part of that game part and I'll tell you part of that game plan involves admitting to yourself that there's an issue, or that you're admitting to yourself that there's a that you're number one, that you're in pain, or that there's an issue. Number two, seeking help, seeking help. I love what LSG always says when she says therapy and God, and Biggie size it. I'm I am a very I am a strong supporter of that statement. Therapy and God, and Biggie size both of them, please. Because you because in this journey you're gonna need both of in this journey of working through your pain, you're gonna need both of them to make it through. And that really leads me to my final point. Working through pain requires us to lean heavily on God. It also requires us to lean heavily on the people that are in our direct orbit. It requires those people to be solid. We already know that God is solid. So that is literally a no-brainer. I'm gonna repeat that again. Working through pain but for my last point of the day tonight, working through pain requires us to be solid, requires us to have trust in God. It requires us to rely on God. It requires us to put certain things in his hands when we can't handle it. It requires us to put things in. I won't even say certain things. It requires us to put all things in his hands, especially those things that we can't handle. If you it does it Working through pain doesn't requires us to never, and I'll change this. I will change it. I will change how I said this. Working through pain requires us to never travel to never work through the work never working through pain requires us to never work through our pain alone. Never work through going through all this by yourself. You don't have to work through this. You don't have to work through to figure this out by yourself. First of all, you got God. First of all, we have God. And then we have the people, we have those reliable people that are in our circle. we don't work through pain by ourselves. Why would you want to work through all that by yourself? Now that I get it, there are instances to where we would have to isolate ourselves and work through that. But if you to work through some of the pain that we go through, but I would strongly encourage you to let to give to let to put let some put some let someone know what's going on, or a good friend, a confidant, um a therapist, somebody that you can trust with that particular type of sensitive information. We don't work through the pain. We don't work through excuse me. We don't work through the pain. We don't work through the pain of our childhood trauma alone. We don't work through the pain of our adulthood trauma alone. We don't work through the pain of loss and grief alone. We don't work through those things by ourselves. Even though it gives the appearance of we're working through it by ourselves, but we we've all God was there the whole time. God was there the whole time, pointing you in the right direction, helping. God was there the whole time, helping you develop your plan, helping you develop this plan of how you go through this, or how you walk through this, how you walk through this fire, and you come out not smelling like smoke. God was there the whole time, the whole while. And even there were times where you felt like you couldn't work through this pain by yourself and you wanted to give up. There were times where God cared, where you were carried. If you see two sets of footprints in the sand, and if you go through your journey in life and you see two footprints in the sand, and then you see one set of footprints in the sand, guess what? God walked with you, and then there were times where God carried you. So we don't walk through that. We don't work through pain alone. We don't work through that. We don't work through that alone. It's never. I'll say this. And there's some instances to where it is a good idea to work through pain alone, but typically it's not. It's typically it's not a good idea to work through it by yourself. You have to have somebody. You gotta have somebody with you. You gotta have a battle buddy. You gotta have an accountability partner. You gotta have somebody that's gonna be able to encourage you. Someone that's going to one that's gonna walk this out with you, because we can't do it by ourselves. We're ineffective by ourselves. We walk through this life. And we some in most instances we walk through this life in lockstep with God. And there are some instances that God has carried us. And then there's instances to where we walk hand in hand and lockstep with him. And then there's sometimes that he carries us. That's just the ebb and flow. That's just the ebb and flow of life. That's just the ebb and flow of our lives. There are times when we walk side by side, left, right, it's in the same step. And then there are times where we're carried. And y'all, I mean, y'all don't see it, but I am again, like, very emotional when I say this, because the simple reason I say this is because when I was working through what I was and still am working through my pain, I thought I was by myself. I thought I was a lone guy out here just working through all this pain that I dealt with, working through, trying to work through a fail through failed fatherhood, trying to work, trying to work my way to past, try to work my way past a divorce, try to work past divorce, try to work my way into, try to work my way past a painful, hurtful divorce, try to work my way past, past dealing with grief and loss and hurt. I literally thought I was by myself. I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one that I looked around. I used to look around like, am I the only one that's going through this? Am I the only one that's going through this shit? Am I the only one that's working through this by myself? I feel like I'm on an island. But I tell y'all, I was never on that island by myself. I was never on that island by myself. There were times as a and this is going to be true as you work through your, as you work through this pain, work through your pain. There are going to be times to where you want to give up and give in. I say to you, do I say to you, don't. There are going to be times to where the pain, the while you working through your pain, the pain is so, it's so it's so pain. The situations are so painful and everything hurts so bad, and everything is is so desperate and so despondent that you're gonna be like, I don't know. I don't know if this was a good idea for me to even embrace, even to go on this journey. I tell you, I tell you, keep pushing, keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. The the battle's already won. The battle's already won. It's up to you. It's up to us on whether we want to claim victory. It's up to us to whether we want to play, whether we want to plant our flag and claim our land. It's up to us. And yeah, and yes, working through our pain. And of course, we're good. We're the working through pain. One of the things I wanted to say, and I'll say this, I'll say this now. Working through pain requires us to fight. We're gonna have to fight. And it's not, and this is it's not a physical battle. The fight is in the mind and in the spirit. Because you're gonna be fighting against your mind. Like, I can't, you, there are parts of that's your mind's gonna tell you, I can't do this. This is too hard. It hurts too much. Excuse me. I can't do this. This is hard. It hurts. I don't want to endure this. It feels like a lot. It's a heavy, it's taking a toll on me. You gonna have to fight. You gonna have to fight. You have to be prepared. You got to be prepared to outlast what it is you're going through. You got to be prepared to outlast what you're going through. As you have to be able to have the endurance to go these 10, to go these 12 rounds. You're gonna have to have the endurance to, you're gonna have the fighting, you're gonna have that fighting spirit. You're gonna have that, not only endurance, but you're gonna have the heart and the grit and the perseverance to see this thing through. You're gonna have to have the heart to be able to get up every time you get knocked down. You're gonna have to have the strength to throw punches, even to throw punches even when you are tired. You're gonna have to have the endurance to think on your feet and be able to see what the enemy's doing and anticipate it before they do it. That's why I say we don't fight it. We don't fight, we don't work through our pain alone. We don't fight alone. God is our God is our core. God is our quarter man. He's the one that's encouraging us through every round to keep moving. He's the one encouraging us. He's the one giving us instruction between rounds. He's the one giving us the instructions between rounds. He's the one telling us what he sees us doing, what he sees us not doing, and what he wants us to do. So when we go back and so we go into the next round, we try we do what we when we go back in the next round and we fight that next round, we apply what we've been told, or what we've been taught, and that helps us endure that round to be able to go to the next round, or to go to the next round, or 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 we get a stoppage. We get a stoppage and we're victorious. Whether it's through a TKO, or whether it's through a straight up knockout. We walk out of that situation victorious. And when we proper when we I've had to learn to apply the same principles that I'm telling you guys. And I promise you that it was not easy. It's still not easy because I find myself sometimes going through the motions and going through the the trials and tribulations of that life throws at us as human beings. And then I find myself working through some sort of pain. But I'm better prepared. I'm still working through the pain of grief of losing a child, man. That's 8 years worth of um hurt, unknown, tears, crying, unanswered questions, um, misgivings in my own mind about how this happened and how this should have went down, or thinking about the quote unquote fairness of it. And so for me, that's 8 years worth of working through that pain, getting to a point in my life to where, okay, I work past that part of it. Now let's work towards the other part of it. So I'm working past one part of it and getting to the healing part in that aspect of it. Now let's work toward the next aspect of it and get to healing in that aspect. So it's been 8 years of working through that, of trying to persevere, trying to endure. It's not it has not been easy. Will it get better? Of course it will. But it's gonna buzz, and the expectation is that it's gonna get better before it gets tougher. That's my expectation, that it will get better before it gets tougher. And that I know that I have the tools to work through whatever pain that I'm going through, whether it's emotional, whether it's to any type of emotional pain that I'm going through. I have the tools. I have the toolbox. Now that doesn't mean I have every tool in the box, because every tool in the box isn't for every situation. But at least I have a toolbox. So I can at least try to see which tools may work in a specific situation. What combinations can I use to work through this, to get me to the part to get me towards the healing stage of what's to get me toward the healing stage. So this what I the points that I put out. It's part of the toolbox. It's part of the toolbox. The other part of that toolbox is having is knowing who God is in your life. That's the most important part of the toolbox. Knowing who God is in your life. And then the other part of that toolbox is being in a relationship with it, having a good therapist, or having a good therapist around you, but also surrounding yourself with positive, encouraging people. People that are going to water you, but also you're going to water them. People that are going to encourage you when you're at that that lowest point in your life. That's why I say we don't work through pain alone. You always have to have somebody with you, encouraging you and coaching you. These are just the tools of the toolbox. And the more tools that you acquire, the more tools that you acquire, the better it will be, as the better it will be as when you work through this pain. And again, I am not a I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed clinical social worker. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. I don't claim to be any of those things. What I do claim, however, is number one, I'm a child of God. Number one. Number two, I'm a man, a human being who's who who wants to use my mental my emotional and my mental health experiences to try to help somebody else, to try to help another man. I want to use my experiences. I want to be able to be able to help another man. If if you can see your experiences through my experiences, if if you can relate and if you can relate and resonate with my experiences, then you that's half the battle. I don't like I said, I don't claim to be a mental health professional. I'm just a guy. I'm just a man, a black man at that, with unique experiences. And I want to use those experiences to try to help my brothers, because there's so many there are not enough safe spaces for us as men. There really isn't enough safe spaces for us as men. There are not enough places for us to be vulnerable. There are not enough places, not enough safe places for us to be transparent. There's not enough spaces for us to be able to be who we are authentically and not get put and not be punished for it. So I want to be able to use I want my life experiences to be that thing, to be that change agent for another guy, another black man. Because believe it or not, brother, I need you. I love you, I need you. I need you to survive. We as brothers, we as black men, we normally walk this life, this life that we live in most cases is a very solitary one that gives little thanks from my own brothers and from our brothers and from our sisters. And I'm not saying it to be facetious or anything of that nature. I'm not even saying that to be mean or anything of that nature. What I'm speaking is just kind of what I'm speaking is more or less of a fact. For a lot of us as black men, our journeys are solitary and lonely journeys because we don't feel like we have those safe spaces to be vulnerable to someone that we care about and that we love. We don't have those safe spaces to be able to express what we feel and not be hated or not be judged by it. So, like I said at the top of the show, man, top of the show, y'all. This is the check-in and man cave conversations are safe spaces for you. This is a safe space. This is a space to where if we're talking about something and you want to put something in the chat, by all means do that. I'll respond to it and we can talk about it. If you want to talk offline about it, shoot me an email or better yet, I'm easily reachable on social media. You can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on TikTok, you can find me um you can shoot an email to me. Um so I'm easily findable. I'm easily reached on social media. But I want out of the whole mission behind Man Cave Conversations, behind the check-in, is to encourage and uplift our brothers. We don't encourage and uplift each other enough. And to me that's a damn shame. We don't give each other our flowers while we're still living. And that's a damn shame. I put a post out yesterday. I named at least 20 to 25 brothers that impacted my life in some way or another, and I gave them thanks. Even even the brothers that I know are on social media, and I admit that, and I missed them, and I said blame my mind and not my heart, because I know y'all also impact me. I'm giving those guys gentlemen flowers while they're still living. Because each and every last brother that I mentioned on that post, and even the ones I didn't mention, you all have impacted me in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's major or a small impact, it doesn't matter. It's an impact, and I just want to let y'all know that I am aware of your presence, and I am aware of your impact on my life. I am cognizantly aware of that, and I appreciate your impact on my life. And I want to thank you guys. I want to thank all you gentlemen from the bottom of my heart because of your impact, because of what you've given to me. And now I'm able, and now because of what you poured into me, and because of what you imparted to me, I'm able to give that back. I'm able to give that back, not only to you guys, but to other brothers as well. We gotta water each other, guys. We gotta water each other, brothers. Brothers, please listen to me. We have to water each other. We gotta water each other. We gotta be able to pour into each other. We gotta be able to encourage each other. We gotta be able to uplift each other. We gotta be able to speak life into each other. We gotta we gotta be able to stand strong and stand firm and stand. We gotta be able to hold each other accountable. We gotta be able to stand firm, one brother to another. The term "I am my brother's keeper" is has a lot of meaning to me. It has meaning to me because of the phrase "I am my brother's keeper." Whatever you're doing out here, whatever you're doing out there in the world, I'm gonna support you. Whatever you doing out here on this earth, whatever you're doing out here in the city, whatever you're doing out here, wherever you are, I'm gonna support you. I'm not gonna let you fall. I'm not gonna let you fall short. I'm not gonna let you fall back. And the reason I say that is because there are some brothers out there who did it for me. There's some gentlemen out there who who did it for me. They know who they are. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to say anything. They know who they are. They did it for me. They made sure that I stayed upright. They made sure that I was able to walk in purpose. They made sure that I was able to walk in confidence. They Because I do it for my brothers because there are brothers out there that did it for me. They didn't give up on me, so I'm not gonna give up on you. I'm not gonna let you give up on yourself. They they didn't let me give up on myself. They didn't allow me to fall. They wouldn't let me give up when I wanted to give up. They didn't let me throw in the towel when I wanted to throw in the towel when I was tired. They spoke life into me. They spoke words of encouragement. They spoke words of peace and words of joy. Just they spoke words of just just keep fighting, Frederick. Just keep fighting, Frederick. Just keep fighting, Fred. You got this. Victory's in hand. You just gotta hold out just a little while longer. When I think of those gentlemen that did it for me, and that did it for me without asking for anything in return. The only thing that they asked for was gratitude. They didn't even ask for gratitude. When they did it for me, and they made sure that I didn't walk this path alone. I didn't work through the pain I go through, work through the pain that I was going through at the time by myself. And each one of them gave me a tool to use. They made sure that I walked out of walked out of what I did a much more confident and a much more stable man. So when they did it for me, it was only natural. It's only natural progression for me as a person, as a person to want to give it back. If they call, they know I'm there without a moment's notice. They don't have to ask. I'm there because they were there for me when I didn't ask. They just showed up. They showed up and they showed out. So when so when the time so when it came for me to pay them back, they didn't ask for anything. So the only thing I knew how to do, the only thing that I knew what to do, the only thing that I could do at the present time was just to pay it forward, was to pay it forward. As much as I I laugh at this right now. I laugh at it because it was humorous. It was funny at the time. But but now when I think about it, I won't say that it's not funny, but when I think about it now, and I look at where I am and how far I've come from 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 1997. I look at that. I look at that journey. I look at that particular journey, and and Lord and God knows that I'm still on that journey because there's still parts of me. There's still parts and aspects of me that are not fully and completely healed. But I'm working on it, and I'm getting there. And like I said, it was funny. It was funny to me when I thought about it. But now when I think about it in the totality of things, it's still funny. But I just it's amazing how certain aspects of your life come full circle. Where it's also amazing how people can come into your life and make an impact on your life and not want anything in return, but not want anything in return, but they see what you're they but they don't want nothing in return, and the only thing that I knew that I know how to do is to pay it forward. Is to help another brother who's struggling, who's going through, who's experiencing some of the things that I've experienced. And for me to be able to give that brother the tools, or at least the tools that I have, the tools that I was given to be a help, it does my heart good. Um, it's we brother we got to be about brotherhood now. It's about being brothers one to another. We have to be able to have that brotherhood and that camaraderie, because we as black men don't have that. And again, it took gentlemen that it took gentlemen that really didn't know me from a can of paint like that, and and they saw me in various stages of my life, at my best, at my worst, at my best again, and at my worst again, at my absolute worst, at rock bottom, and then at my absolute best when I thought I was on top. So a lot of guys, that the gentlemen that I'm talking about, see me see me through saw me through those times. They didn't judge. They didn't beat me down. They didn't say anything negative or disparaging to me. They just introduced me to harsh truths. I have a female cousin. I have a female cousin, Tina, that does the same thing. That does the same thing. It's not about a beat down or anything like that. It's just being introduced to harsh truths. And unfortunately, harsh truths hurt. I feel better knowing that I was exposed to the harsh truth, and I was hurt by that harsh truth, than to be hurt by than to be hurt by a pretty or beautiful untruth. That's all I got for y'all tonight. Um, the last part of that was quite emotional, and it it just signifies the appreciation that I have for all the brothers that have impacted my life, and those sisters. I can't forget y'all. I can't forget y'all, and y'all sis and the sisters that have impacted my life. I salute y'all. I thank y'all for being in my life, for the time that you were in it, the time that you were or are still in it. And I'm thankful for the words of knowledge and the words of wisdom and the words of truth that you gave me. I'm thankful for that. I appreciate that. It is I'll say this, it's always been my pleasure to present this to you guys. It has always been my ability to it's always been my pleasure to present this to you guys. It's always been my I feel sometimes that it's my that is a mission of mine. I feel sometimes that it's a calling. What did I keep trying to run away from? I don't I don't know why. I don't know why I keep running away from it. Because number one, I feel unqualified to even speak. But I think the more that I do speak, the more confident I become, I get coming up in front of this coming up to you guys in front of this microphone, coming up to you guys in front of this camera, when my camera works. When the camera works, which means that's just telling me that I gotta get a new one. Or I just need to do something with my internet connection. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not sure which one it is. I think it might be the camera, but we'll work that out. But I feel like this is something that I've been running from for a while. And I don't have a fancy degree or anything like that. I'm just a guy who has unique experiences like every other man or every other human being. And it's my hope every time I come in front of the microphone or in front of the camera that someone is impacted by those unique experiences and how I break those experiences down and how I kind of put those into tenets that I hope can help you in your life in life in this journey that we call this this beautiful journey that we call life. It is always as always it's an honor, it's a pleasure for me to present this to you. Um, I thank you guys I thank you guys, the ones that tuned in. I thank you. I really do. Um, whether anybody tuned in or not, I was still gonna go. I'm still going. So it doesn't matter whether someone tunes in or not. I'm still going. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you. I thank our listeners. I thank our viewers for being so awesome. You guys are the reason. You guys are the reason as to why. As you guys are the reason as to why we keep doing this. We keep bringing this content to you. You guys are requesting it. You guys are asking for it. So you're the reason as to why we do this. If you're not subscribed to the Trailblazer Radio YouTube channel, do me a favor. Go to the channel, check out any video or any short that's up there. Like it, comment on it. And if what we're doing as a unit, as a whole, resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. And then also hit that bell notification so you can be notified as to when the next show is. I promise you you'll be glad. I promise you you'll be glad you did. For those of you that are watching that want to follow us, that want to follow us, not only just on YouTube, but also on social media. We are on social media at on Facebook at Trailblazers with a Z Radio. We're also on Instagram at Trailblazers with a Z Radio. We're also on TikTok at Trailblazers with a Z Radio. We're also on LinkedIn at Trailblazers Radio. We also got a Twitch channel, Trailblazers_radio. So and also do me another solid, man. Follow the other hosts that we got on this amazing stage, this amazing platform. Latalia Harris Gooden, aka LHG, Tony Wade and Kai Rodriguez, our new host, our newest host, man. Um, follow them on their various social media platforms, and also follow their YouTube channels. Follow Critical Conversations with LSG on her YouTube channel. Follow Diamond Butterfly on her YouTube channel. Follow Diamond Star Entertainment on their YouTube channel. Follow Man Cave Conversations on our Facebook channel. If you can't watch our shows, check us out. Check us out. Check out our audio pods. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Amazon Music. Anywhere that you get audio streaming channels, we are there. We're also on Google Podcasts. So check us out. Anywhere that audio streaming channels are, we're there. I thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. This was an awesome night. I have to say, this was an awesome night. I have to say that. Um, you guys have made this a great night by supporting. Um, I'm grateful. And to my brothers out there, wherever you are, know that I love you guys. Know that I love you to life, and there's nothing you can do about it. I support you. I salute you. I see you. I recognize you. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. Keep pushing the needle forward. You are making an impact despite what it looks like. You are making a difference despite what it feels like. You are a king. You are a strong father. You are a great husband. You are a great brother. You are a loving son. You are a loving brother. All those things and then some. Walk in love, walk in peace, walk in prosperity, walk in light. I love you. I love you guys. See you guys on the next one. Actually, what is the next one? The next one is tomorrow. Critical Conversations. The pain of unappreciation. Join in tomorrow at 5 p.m. as LHG talks about the pain of unappreciation. A great conversation to have. So do me a favor. So do us a favor. Beat us in the chat. And let's talk about it. I love you. I love you guys to life. I love you guys to live. You guys have a wonderful evening. And above all things, I bid you guys good night. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Until next time.